What is up, everybody? I am back after a short break. Sadly, I had another family member pass away over the weekend, but got to come together with other family members and kind of, get that closure. One nice thing about it is I actually had all my family there, and we all watched UFC 322 together, which was a pretty awesome experience, I will say. Until we hit the co-main in the main event. It got a little frustrating from then on out. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about specifically Jack Della Maddalena's performance against Islam Makhachev and my case as to Jack Maddalena did not use the tools he wanted to use in this fight correctly. That is going to be the case I'm going to make here. I hope it's pretty feasible, or excuse me, not feasible, but pretty logical in how I draw these conclusions. I could see what he wanted to do. I don't think he was doing a lot of it correctly. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Right, as we can see, by the end of the fight, JDM was kind of lost. He probably was doubting himself a ton. A lot of people were saying he was hurt at one point in the fight. I kind of disagree with that. I think that's one reason why I fucking hate Joe Rogan's commentary. Would not shut up about the grimace on Jack Della Maddalena's face, and he's trying to get up and looked like he was hurt. Blah 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 blah. It got annoying to a certain point, but yeah, it was not a great face to see at the end of round 5. But let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so first thing in the first round, 1 minute in, Islam shoots his single leg. JDM, off rip, does the right thing. Gets his hands in between. He gets an underhook. All right, he's got his foot in between. Okay. Islam is doing a great job here, putting his head into JDM, but JDM is, I shit you not, once he gets to this position, he stands perfectly still. He is not moving. He's not leveraging his overhook and putting weight on it to break the posture of Islam or trying to create any sort of separation and pushing on his head with the free arm that's not using the overhook. He's not doing any of that. As a result, Islam hips out, gets the leg to the outside, and does his signature trip. And something that is great about this trip, and the reason why JDM should not have just been sitting there with that overhook, once they go down, JDM has an overhook here. Once they hit the ground, Islam immediately has this underhook on this side and can start working to flat out. Now, luckily, JDM starts with a knee shield here to have a little bit of space, but as you can see, he still gets flattened out. Islam passes through that knee shield, and he gets his body weight, his hips on top of hips, chest on top of chest, head even with head. This is some good pressure right here from Islam. I just also want to pretext this. I'm going to criticize Jack Della Maddalena's technique a lot in this video. That is not me trying to take away from Islam. I'm also going to highlight a lot of great things that Islam did to react to some of JDM's grappling defense here. And I guess some of his grappling offense, if you want to call it that, at some points for JDM. But immediately here, you can see JDM is feeling the pressure of this crossface. It's definitely getting to him. He's trying to push under the armpit, which is not probably the way I would want to get out this crossface out in this position. But he's doing a good job trying to push on the face, trying to get Islam's head into a different spot here. Doing a decent job here, but Islam putting on great pressure. He's got his body in a great spot here. But then he gets his head off to the side. And this is a tough position. This overhook is jacking this arm way up. But Jack's starting to make some progress here. And he's got the arm that you can't see. He's got that arm framing the crossface arm, trying to make some separation here. So that's a good first step. Islam's keeping his weight real low, doing a good job trying to keep this bottom leg pinned. But JDM's starting to focus on that crossface arm, which is what he should be doing. So he gets the 2-on-1. He pushes on the face, all right, and he gets some separation. He gets his knee shield back. Great job. Great job. And what does he do with this 2-on-1? All right, when you do that technical stand-up, you got one of two things. You can get an underhook and start to get your hips out from under you. Maybe that's a little more dangerous with a guy like Islam, who's got that great front headlock choke series. So Jack Della Maddalena decides to go 2-on-1 in the grip, all right? And then he decides to start to hip out and then straighten this arm, good stiff arm. That way Islam can't collect his crossface back and flatten Jack out. But Islam does still have a grip over this hip here. Jack doing a good job of getting to his forearm here. He should get to his hand after that and then start to build himself up. But Islam presses into him, keeps his head and his body over him, clears that arm that was stiff arming, he collects the hips. All right, he's got the hip wrap here. JDM, with all this space he has, rolls under, does a good job here, rolls under Islam and tries to send him over. Islam, with the strength of a bear, keeps his grip, and Jack Della Maddalena tries to get back on top, but Islam gets his hips back over Jack, tries to come back to the other side. Jack does a good job in responding, tries to build himself back up and hit the switch. Islam kicks out, perfectly ends up behind him. So good early scramble from both guys. All right, good early scramble from both guys. I saw this happening and I'm like, one, Islam is on point right now with his wrestling scrambles. But two, JDM is not stopping movement. In the beginning, at least, is what it seems to me. He prioritized the get up over sweeps or anything like that. And when his get up was denied, then he tried to respond with the next step to maybe get the scramble going and get back to his feet. So not bad from both guys. Okay, they both doing good work here. But Islam's in a really good spot here, controlling the backside. All right, JDM gets up to his tripod, but Islam, classic good wrestling, trying to break the posture, trying to drag him forward. Islam, you can't quite see, but his leg is behind the knee of Jack Della Maddalena, making it even harder for Jack to get his posture back. Jack would have to somehow bring this leg inside, kick out, and then get that leg to the outside behind Islam to start to counter this, but he's not able to do it. That's definitely a mistake here by Jack. They end up against the fence for a bit after that, and Islam threatens the back choke, but then JDM rolls to his back and ends up back in bottom half guard. So we end up here. He starts turning to his side to get an underhook. Islam immediately threatens the front headlock choke. Classic Islam move here, the correct move for him. JDM, which one thing that the commentators were talking about throughout this whole camp, he practiced submission defense like a champ. He really did. Now this is where the criticism starts for me. The big criticism with his octopus guard. All right, the octopus guard. Now there is a basic octopus sweep that I'd say most jiu-jitsu practitioners know. You hip up into him, you reach around and grab the hip, and you switch your legs, making sure the outside leg goes over the half guard leg that's on the top opponent, and you hip into him, you sweep him over, and then you're in top half guard. Basic, most basic octopus guard sweep. Although it is basic, it is not easy. It is not easy. Basic does not equal easy. Never does. Octopus guard is also a whole system. Has a whole system of moves to it. JDM did not have the technical prowess ability and depth of knowledge in octopus guard to be trying to pull it off against Islam Makhachev. I mean that with the utmost respect. JDM would whoop my ass. I will say that proudly. He'll whoop my ass. His octopus guard left a lot to be desired here. So just to pretext everything I'm about to say here. So Islam threatening that front headlock. JDM does a good job using this arm over here that was trapped to break the grip, and he starts to get that wrist grip again, to start fighting hands and start to make that separation. He has a knee shield. Great job again. Something that Dean Thomas was talking about that he kind of stopped doing later on in the fight. And that's something that I would criticize Zhang Weili for doing too. That at least in the beginning of the fight, Jack was doing okay. As the fight went on, he was not using his entire body to try to pull off these moves. He was not using his entire body. So, but like I said here, he starts using his hand to break that grip. All right. Next step, he starts to clear it behind his head, signaling he's about to start the sequence for the octopus guard sweep. Now, if he wants to successfully pull this off, similar to how when you're on bottom and you have a knee shield in frames, and you push that knee shield through and launch your arm for an underhook on that same side as the knee shield, similar to how you would do that, you'll use the momentum to kick off that knee shield and then come hip up and peek out with that head and arm and then reach around that hip and grab that hip, all right? All in one momentum motion, like one good momentum, just getting that in there. That is why you use that knee shield. JDM does not do that. He lets go of the wrist grip. He starts to try and come up, and he starts to try and grab over the lat. He's literally blocking himself. He's blocking himself. You can't get this chest to chest, hip to hip that you want when you're in the octopus guard when you're blocking yourself with this knee shield. Okay? So he doesn't get the momentum he needs. He's using a ton of muscle here. Islam is literally probably not using much. All right? and Islam already uses that time where it's not set up correctly. The knee is still not where it should be at this point. Islam does what he needs to do to defend, gets his cross face back in there, and there's no grip on the hip here as well. JDM, I think, was grabbing also way too high on the back. You need to grab lower hip on the hip here. Lat isn't bad either. I think it depends on body type as well. You know, I think different body types lend to different spots you should grab sometimes. But for the most part, you probably have dealer's choice there, if I'm being honest. A little bit of preference, a little bit of body type stuff. So first mistake there with the octopus guard from Jack Della Maddalena. And just as another thing that you have to do, the way this bottom leg here is draped over the top of Islam's half guard leg, when you start to do this sweep, and if you're in the proper position where this crossface isn't on you and you're far and hip to him, this other leg needs to now come over this leg of Islam to then hip into him and then get on top half guard. Jack was not able to do that. Not able to do that. All right. Then Islam flattens him back out and gets back to it. Now, going on into round two. A little bit of a compliment for JDM first going into this next sequence. So they get into the clinch early on. Islam uses his underhook, pushes JDM against the fence. JDM trying to block knees. Islam doing a good job pushing chest pressure into the side of the cage. And JDM trying to stop this arm here, stop shots from landing and stopping Islam from getting position here. Now, in a moment here, Islam controlling the tricep, JDM with like a shallow underhook, decides to throw out a Haragoshi. Not an Uchimata. He doesn't go in between legs. He goes across. Great. He does a great job at hitting this throw. Now, the thing is, though, such as how when Islam does a throw like that, he's got control of the tricep, and he's grabbing inside the glove, possibly. He could be doing one of those two things, and that'll stop the opponent from doing what Islam does next. So JDM hits a pretty nasty good Haragoshi. Oh, yeah, something else to put out here. JDM waits until a really good time in two, where he's got a better head position than Islam. So Islam's more loaded up onto this leg here, and he's ready to be thrown, right? So JDM does a good job on the timing here with the head position, actually, and then launches Haragoshi. And you can tell he used a lot of energy to try to hit this throw, especially since he doesn't have a good grip on this arm, all right? He's got like the shot, I don't even call it an underhook at this point. But he starts the Haragoshi here, and because he didn't have that grip on that arm, Islam has to respond, and he posts with his arm. But still, you got Islam moving, you're getting separation. Either way, even if it's not a fully successful throw, this is good from JDM. So they go forward, but JDM and DC got him good for this. He got him hard for this. Makes a mistake. They end up in the dogfight position there first. Is that the dogfight position? Pretty much the overhook, underhook battle on the knees. And JDM decides to try and step over. And this is when I knew. This boy JDM's a little jiu-jitsu slut. He wants to hit the fancy, cool, obscure jiu-jitsu moves, all right? But he does not have that depth of knowledge. He does not have that depth of knowledge, okay? He tries to step all the way over, and he tries to go into the armbar. I think similar to how, was it Colby Covington tried to do that recently on Buckley, or was it Ian Gary, I think, tried to go for it on Michael Venom Page? I can't remember, but welterweights have been trying to pull off this move. I've definitely seen it in a couple welterweight fights. But Islam, just to compliment him real quick, does an amazing job. So in this last fight, you see where they are here. Islam, to stop any sort of space from JDM to even have a possibility of getting that armbar, pushes him into the fence and stacks him, stuffs him. Terrible, awful position for JDM. This is super uncomfortable. Great job by Islam to have awareness to put JDM against the fence here, honestly. But as a result, JDM has to flat out give up bottom position again, ends up in bottom half guard. Now, octopus guard sweep attempt number 2. This time, they're up against the cage. JDM again has that 2-on-1 grip on the wrist. Good job collecting that. He could, it might be a little bit of a harder time for him to hip out, but he could use the cage to get his back and start to slither his way up if he wanted to. That would have been one option for him to do. Doesn't decide to do that, tries to do the octopus guard sweep again, but this is actually pretty good clearance. Although he doesn't have the knee shield to kind of use that separation of space to kind of momentum him up, all the space that he created here with this, that could still be used. You can still use this. So he gets that space and he uses it to launch himself up. He really uses a lot of momentum, and he also has a foot into the cage here. It makes me think Oh, is he going to, instead of trying to put the leg over the top half guard leg of Islam to sweep over, is he going to try and use the fence to do it? He never actually kicks off the fence pretty well. Once he gets here, he doesn't grip the opposite side hip. He doesn't switch his legs like I was just saying. Okay? He stays in this position for too long. Okay? Islam kind of rotates his body a bit and he gets his crossface back immediately. If you're Jack Della Maddalena, when you throw that octopus guard out there, you need to hide that head. You need to hide that head and not let that crossface get back. You need to be deep, deep in that octopus guard. Deep in that octopusy guard. If you want to get this done, okay? You have to. Okay? And so as you see here, Islam, a little compliment to him here, collects the wrist as Jack was coming up. Again, also as well, the forearm and elbow, that's okay. If you can, though, get up fully to your hand so you can get as much far forward as you can. Oh, something else I wanted to point out with Islam's defense of the octopus guard, actually. So Islam does a good job of rotating Jack's body to kind of find that crossface. Look at what Islam's doing with his back leg here. He's pulling up on it and like bending his knee in, doing a little hamstring curl, almost like trapping this leg here. And his hips are on like almost on top of the knee here, making it much harder for Jack to actually maneuver his legs. So I think Islam, I don't know if it's just kind of naturally part of his wrestling style or if they actually prepared a good bit of defense for the octopus guard. Either way, good job by Islam. Jack did try to do a bit of a better job of reaching across to grab the hip. I think he's a little bit deeper in here on the arm at least, but again, similar to when we were starting with the single leg in the very beginning, Jack sits in this spot trying to push his forehead into the arm of Islam to break this grip for Asad. I'm not lying to you, 4 seconds. Trying to force the issue. You cannot do that with guards like this. These guards they need a fine touch. They need a little bit of English to them, all right? These are not easy guards. They are not easy guards. That's why when jiu-jitsu, it's called like the gentle art, that you flow through it. That's not what this is. He's trying to use his forearm to push into the arm and break the grip. It's just not. It's blockhead type jiu-jitsu using Eddie Bravo, Craig Jones type of flowy type of jiu-jitsu. Like you can't do that. You just can't. So again, if I were to continue this video, it would be just me shitting on Craig Jones trying to force the issue with octopus guard over and over and over. The way I want to end this video, man, I want to talk about what he could have done. Besides obviously the things that he needed to improve with the octopus guard and the things he needed to tweak and the things he needed to tweak with his Haragoshi throw and the attempt on that arm bar. And if you're going to go for that arm bar he's going for, you need to be speeding to that position. You cannot wait. He went also way too slow in that transition. Islam had plenty of time to push him up against the fence. If you're going to go for an arm bar, look, when you've already made the decision, you're far too gone, go for the arm bar, man. Don't slowly get there. I know it's all of this is easier said than done. All of this is easier said than done. I'm not sitting here like, oh, I could have done that. I could have done this. All of it is easier said than done. But as the fight went on, he wasn't using his entire body. And something I wanted to point out from the Zhang Weili Shevchenko fight. There was at one point Shevchenko who had better technique, I think, but some of the takedowns were just pure muscling Zhang down with underhooks. It was crazy. But at one point, Zhang was in bottom half guard position with a lockdown on that half guard leg, lockdown, and wasn't moving it. Like when you get a lockdown, people in that, the commentators always call it a stalling position. They call full guard kind of a stalling position sometimes if you're just keeping it closed. They call that lockdown position stalling for the bottom person too, so they just don't pass guard. That is not a stalling position. Similar to the octopus guard. You need to get moving, man. You need to start using that lockdown. Shift your hips left and right. Make some space. If you go into a deep half guard sweep, fine. If you make some space and you can start getting your frames in, get a knee shut and kick off their hips, or start a get up, get an underhook, get a get up, get a 2-on-1 on the wrist when you're shifting those hips around. You're making space. All right. Then you maybe get a 2-on-1 grip on the wrist like JDM got. It's just there wasn't any off balancing. Both of them were trying to get to the last step. like that. They weren't trying to set up anything with Kazushi with off balance. I think JDM, I don't think used a lockdown once in this fight. A lockdown, I look, Eddie Bravo said it way back, and I'm kind of starting to become a believer in it because I saw how, I hate saying it like this, because I saw how badly JDM tried to utilize this guard. It made me think, what if someone was using this guard correctly? If someone had like Craig Jones, Eddie Bravo type of deep half octopus guard, all these fancy guards, how good would it be? And honestly, if a good lockdown was used in this fight, and you really were trying to swivel your hips left and right and get some momentum moving, I really think that could have helped make some spacing, start some get ups here. These people who want to use advanced jujitsu in MMA, like, commit to it. You can't just spam one move over and over and over and over and over and over. It's not going to work. Your opponent is going to just learn how to defend it even easier as you go on. You can see it from this, actually, the final slide I had here. You can see it. Like, Islam wasn't controlling the wrist like this whenever JDM attempted it the first time. He added that little bit of spice on after the fact, all right? You cannot spam this stuff, and it made me it was an incredibly frustrating watch. It was incredibly frustrating to watch. I had a lot of faith in JDM, and I actually had a lot of faith in the weird jiu-jitsu that he had. It's just, I think he got really overwhelmed by the power and the technique of Islam. I think he got really in it. He got it in his own head big time after that first and second round. After that first and second round, he was in his head big time because he landed that Haragoshi even without a control on the other arm. That was a great Haragoshi. All right. I want Jack Della Maddalena, if he wants to go this route of grappling, immerse yourself in it. Become one with that style of grappling. If this is what you want to do, if this is the art you want to show in the UFC and in MMA, go all in, man. Go all in. Okay? I see the potential. I didn't show it in this slide, in the slideshow here, but in the first round there was a point where he got into the cross ashi and in sort of a leg lock position and like moved himself hips under Islam and got good separation. He decided to start maybe threatening a leg lock and started up kicking at the body, which is okay, I guess, but he could have used that to get up. It was a beautiful transition into that cross ashi. He could have used that to get up. He could have kept reaping the leg over, made Islam turn the back away, use that to get up, come out. I saw so much potential, but the technique needs to be sharpened. It needs to be sharpened. I can see Jack Della Maddalena make these changes. His boxing's good enough. Brother, you got boxing. You got it. It's all good. You can put it down for a little bit. Immerse yourself in this world that you're trying to be a part of. Immerse yourself in it. I guarantee you, we could maybe see a deeper game of what he tried to show here. I saw what he wanted. I saw the vision, but I could see how mentally in his head he was doubting it completely by the end of the fight. He was doubting himself hard and like all this work he put into this specific style. I could see it on his face. It was tearing him apart that it wasn't working, but you cannot give up on it because you're not going to learn the wrestling. You're not going to learn the wrestling to counter it at this point. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can, but at this point, man, you got to do what you got that you're good at and make it even better. You got to take it up to that next level, all right? Take it up to that next level. Get 3 levels deeper in on that, man. Octopus guard is an entire position, all right? It's got a whole system to it. Learn that system. Learn it. I think he can come back. I really do. But he needs to prioritize spots where he can separate more. The Haragoshi going to that armbar, if you want to go for that, man, go for it. But go for it then, or separate. You gotta commit it. You gotta commit. So that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you think. Maybe I was off on, maybe with some of this octopus guard critique. I don't play it too often. I've seen a decent bit of it. Let me know what you think I got right, what I got wrong, what you think he could have done better in that fight, what you thought Islam did good to shut down the game that I may have missed here. Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you hopefully hopefully this coming weekend for a card. So, see ya.